Hello everybody, it is Katie here, and it is time to talk about Shadowhunters. So episode 4 aired days ago. I am sorry about this video being so late. I have this problem where I can only film my videos during the day because I don't have any studio lights or anything, so I am limited to the daytime. Of course, with it being winter at the moment as well, the sun goes down a lot quicker. Literally, by the time it hits like 4 o'clock, it's too dark for me to film. So since episode 4 aired, I've been busy during the day, and this is the first chance I've had to film my review. So what I'm going to do is make this review a bit shorter than the ones I usually make. Instead of going through the episode bit by bit, I'm just going to talk about the things that stood out the most for me. Also, in the time that it has taken me to film this discussion, Sebastian has been cast, but I want to talk about that in this video as well, so I need to leave time at the end for that. But anyway, let's see what we can do with this very late and rushed discussion. So episode 4 is following the fallout from episode 3. Jace was arrested because he's suspected of aiding Valentine, and so at the end of the last episode he was taken away to the City of Bones. So when episode 4 starts, it shows Clary going to visit Jace. I'm so glad that we got to see the City of Bones again, and the Silent Brothers as well. I think the City of Bones looks a lot more epic this season than it did last season. We never really got to see much of it last season. It was just a few scenes in the second episode, I think it was. But this time when Clary first walks in and meets up with the Silent Brother, we get this shot of like the whole area, and you can hear wails of despair and stuff like that. It just looked much more epic than what it did in the first season. So let's talk about the Silent Brothers in this episode. The massacre happens. This does happen in the books as well when Valentine comes to see Jace. We got to see some of that in this episode. I like the way that that went down. So as Valentine's about to leave with the sword, Victor tells Jace to get the sword from him. But of course, Jace being Jace decides to save Victor's life instead because he's such a good person, even though everyone's seeing the worst in him right now. I mean, let's be real, Victor didn't really deserve to have his ass saved by Jace after the way he's treated that boy since the start of this season. But Jace does the good thing anyway and saves Victor. So I'm interested to see how that's going to change things and whether Victor fully believes that Jace is on their side now. Earlier on in the episode, we had Jace's interrogation scene where he's using the sword. Of course, the sword compels him to tell the truth, so Victor ends up asking him a lot of questions. I like the part where Victor asked Jace whether he would be totally loyal to the Clave, because we know what Jace is like. We know that if somebody he loved went against the Clave, or some other situation like that, he would side with them rather than the Clave. And that doesn't mean that he's a bad person and that he's conspiring against the Clave, but Victor uses the fact that he wouldn't be 100% loyal against him. Also, Victor made the scene very uncomfortable when he started asking about Clary, asking whether Jace loved her more than a sibling. I'm so ready for this storyline to be over because it's just so uncomfortable. So other things that I wanted to talk about in this episode. Raphael, he ends up getting tortured by Victor, and there was a horrible scene, by the way, seeing him stuck down in that chair whilst Victor used these sunbeams to burn him. If I didn't hate Victor before, if that wasn't confirmed, it was after that scene. I will not forgive him for that scene, no matter how much he tries to redeem himself from now on. I will always hold the fact that he tortured Raphael against him. It also showed as well how horrible the Clave can be. They have these accords in place to protect downworlders and for them all to get along. Yeah, this just proves how easily the Clave will go against that to get what they want. So I like the way that this episode showed that. After that scene, Raphael goes to Magnus, and whilst he's there, Simon shows up as well. These scenes between Simon, Raphael and Magnus were some of my favourite scenes in this entire episode. I've been waiting so long to finally see Raphael and Magnus meet in the show. I think that those scenes brought out a new side of Magnus that we haven't seen before. He made me very emotional when he saw Raphael in that state, and he immediately says, "My poor boy," and he's trying to heal him. They were emotional scenes, and it showed us as well how much Magnus truly cares for Raphael. And then things got funny when Simon showed up as well. Him and Raphael keep arguing with each other, and Magnus has to stand in between them. That scene was gold. Dad Magnus and his two downworlder children. That was something I didn't know that I needed until I saw that episode. I definitely want more scenes between the three of them in the future. I love them so much. What I also wanted to talk about was the scene that Magnus and Simon had on the balcony of Magnus's apartment. I found this such an important scene. The three of them need to find Camille and hand her over to the Clave before either of them get any more hurt. So while Simon and Magnus are talking about Camille on this balcony, Magnus ends up opening up to Simon more than I expected him to. He talks about how Camille wasn't always the person that she is today. And so we had Magnus telling Simon of a time back in the 1800s. He was standing on Blackfriars Bridge and he considered suicide, and that Camille was the one that stopped him from doing that. I absolutely loved this addition to Magnus's backstory. He added so much depth and more vulnerability to his character, and that's what I absolutely love about Magnus in the show. I'm not saying that we didn't get any moments of his vulnerability in the books, because we obviously did, but I just think the show is adding more to his character. And it showed us as well what kind of dark places that Magnus has been to in his past because of who and what he is. It showed us how much he struggled coming to terms with that. I also really liked the scene at the end when he actually did capture Camille. Camille made a point of saying that she was the only one that was going to be there for him all the time because everyone he loves will die eventually. And I love that the show is touching upon stuff like that because obviously it's an important part of Magnus's storyline. He is immortal and we're going to have to deal with that more in the future. I also like the way that he said Raphael was like a son to him and that he was always going to protect downworlders like him and Simon. I was just so happy with Magnus in this episode. So shout out to the writers for that storyline because I loved it. What else did we have going on? Luke and Jocelyn had a touching scene in this episode. Jocelyn is being sent back to Idris. She wants Clary to come with her, and there is a scene where she's talking about it to Luke, and Luke says that he wants to go with her as well because obviously Jocelyn and Clary are his whole world. So he's going to follow Jocelyn wherever she goes. We had a lovely little kiss between them and I thought it was so sweet, and I was like, Lucilla relationship, we're going to get to see this develop over the season. Potentially the start of a happy family between him, Jocelyn and Clary. Things are going to get better. That didn't happen, did it? No, because a demon ends up in the Institute. So one of Valentine's experiments enables a demon to get into the Institute. So it sneaks in through a corpse and it possesses people at random. I just need to say that the demon part of this episode really reminded me of Supernatural. Do you know how many years I've had to stressfully watch demons possess people and make those people do things that they wouldn't usually do? I don't need that level of stress in 2 shows, okay? Supernatural is bad enough, thank you very much. But that's what happens. We have demon possessions to deal with. I liked how badass the Institute were in dealing with it as well. And there's a scene where all of them are gathered around the table. You have Lydia and Raj there as well. And they pull up this fancy little hologram of the Institute. I know a lot of people still don't really like the technology side of the Institute, but I love it. I think it looks so much more cooler. So any of these scenes where they're all gathered around and planning, I find them awesome. I also liked that there was a lot of banter in this episode because of Raj. No one seems to like Raj. Lydia was giving him sassy remarks as well. We are seeing a lot more of Raj this season as well, so I'm wondering if we're going to get more on his character. Maybe a bit of backstory here and there, who knows? So episode 4, we knew somebody was going to die, which was stressing me out because 4 episodes in with deaths already. That's not what I signed up for. Save that for season finales. Don't throw deaths at me in episode 4. That's not okay. So I knew a character was going to die, and I was very worried for Lydia, and also worried for Raj, since Raj had played a bigger part in episode 3. I thought that maybe his character was in danger as well. I was wrong. Very, very wrong. Clary ends up finding Alec sitting in a hallway in the Institute, his hand bloody. He can't remember what's happened, so clearly he's been possessed. Clary goes into the room, finds Jocelyn dead on the floor. What? What? Literally, out of all of the potential characters I thought could die in this episode, Jocelyn wasn't even on the list. Oh my god. The Shadowhunters writers know how to shock, don't they? Because I was floored. So yeah, that happened. Jocelyn was killed by a possessed Alec. Now, I don't know what's going on with this storyline. I don't know whether all is what it seems Is Jocelyn actually dead? Or is this some sort of very elaborate trick? I don't know. I know that next week's episode revolves around Clary trying to resurrect her, so maybe we could see her come back as a different type of Jocelyn, because obviously she's not going to come back normal if she is resurrected. I don't know what's going on with this plot. It's something that I didn't predict, but I really love the fact that it shocked me as much as it did, because I wasn't expecting it. Because that's what the show needs to do, really. If it just follows the books all the time, those of us who've read the books are going to expect certain things to happen. We're going to assume that a character is safe because they were safe in the books. So for them to just straight up murder Jocelyn in episode 4, that was a good move, because it's opened up a storyline that we never thought we'd have to see. So we don't know what's going to happen. Literally anything could happen with regards to Jocelyn's death. It's also going to show us a side of the characters that we haven't seen before as well, because we're going to have to deal with a grieving Clary and Luke. Also, what is it going to do to Alec as well? Because obviously, even though it wasn't Alec's fault because he was possessed, he's going to take responsibility for this and feel guilty, and I think this is really going to eat away at him. So it's opened up a lot of different paths for the characters. I haven't really seen a variety of other people's reactions to this storyline yet, because I haven't had a time to watch any other reviews, so I don't know how the fandom in general is taking this. I've only seen the reaction on Tumblr, and most people on Tumblr seemed more interested in the story with Magnus, Raphael and Simon than they did with Jocelyn. So please do let me know how you're feeling about Jocelyn being murdered in episode 4. You weren't expecting it, were you? No. So that was a plot twist and a half. Another thing as well is that it wasn't the only death in the episode. Hodge, poor old Hodge, came back for this episode. He was also in the City of Bones, being imprisoned. We know that's not how it happened in the books, because in City of Glass he's actually in prison in Idris with Simon. So this is different from the books, but it didn't really bother me. Instead, we had him have a conversation with Jace, and he ended up helping Jace in the end as well, but he got killed. He died. Poor Hodge. So yeah, 2 deaths in one episode, and it's only episode 4. These writers are brutal, oh my god. So that's all I'm going to talk about with regards to this episode. I know I kind of rushed through things quite a lot, but like I said, I didn't want this video to go on too long, but they were the main things that stood out to me in this episode anyway. Please do let me know what you thought of everything down in the comments, because I'm sure a lot of you probably have some very strong opinions, so talk to me about all the things. So before I wrap this video up, we had a casting announcement, and it was Sebastian. We knew that Sebastian was going to be coming into the show in 2B, and we knew that he'd already been cast as well. They finally revealed who is playing him, and Sebastian is being played by Will Tudor. Let me start by saying that I adore Will Tudor. If any of you watch Game of Thrones, then I know he was in that at some point, but I don't know who he played because I don't watch Game of Thrones. I know him, however, from a show called Humans, which airs on Channel 4 here in the UK. He plays one of my favourite characters in that show, and he's a character that is absolutely adorable, like literally can do no wrong type character. He's just so pure and sweet. So it's going to be quite a stark contrast seeing him play one of the most evil and vile characters that I've ever come across in literature. But he's such a fantastic actor and he's a lovely guy, so I am thrilled that he's joining the cast. He's also very good friends with Dom, and I think it's going to make the scenes between Sebastian and Jace really interesting to watch as well. There are quite a lot of mixed reactions when it comes to Sebastian. Where I discuss the show most is Tumblr, so that's where I'm getting my reactions from. Since he was cast and I've been in the Shadowhunters tag, I have seen a lot of people not wanting Sebastian in the show right now. Personally, I wanted them to bring Sebastian into the show as quickly as they could, simply because I want this sibling storyline over and done with, because it's uncomfortable. You can't deny that that is such an awkward storyline. Bringing Sebastian into the show will help the truth come out and we can get over that whole Clary and Jace thing. I also want Sebastian in the show because I think he's a fantastic villain. When reading the books, to me, he was much more intimidating than Valentine. So I'm looking forward to his introduction. I can't wait to see what he brings to the show, but because of all the negative reactions I've been seeing on Tumblr, I feel like it's important to just remind us all that you can appreciate a character without liking that character. Because I saw people accusing those who were getting excited about Sebastian coming into the show of sympathising with his actions, that type of thing. Appreciating Sebastian as a villain doesn't mean that you condone what he does. I am excited to see Sebastian in the show, and I'm excited to see Will Tudor play him. That doesn't mean that I like Sebastian. I am not a Sebastian fan. I don't see any redeeming qualities in him at all, but I am excited to see what it does to the show. Just an important thing to remember. But yeah, I'm just really excited that Will Tudor's joining the show. He is very cute, but I'm sure he's going to be a very scary villain as well. So that is it for this video. Like I said, any thoughts you have, leave them down in the comments. I will try and make my review of episode 5 as quickly as I can. Hopefully it won't be as late as this one. And thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you next time. Bye!